All right, let's dive right into a really fascinating puzzle that's happening right now in the modern workplace. We're talking about a strange disconnect, a real paradox between our most complex, systems level thinkers and our most powerful corporate jobs.
I mean, it just sounds backward, right? You would absolutely assume that the biggest, most influential jobs would naturally attract the most capable, brightest minds. But the data tells a completely different story. And to get to the bottom of it, we have to start with just a single, pretty stark number. So, what on earth is this? Negative 0.1104. Well, it's a correlation. It's a quiet, hidden statistical link. And it basically holds the entire key to solving this paradox. Yeah, this number represents a negative correlation. And all that means is that as one thing goes up, another thing goes down. And in this explainer, we're going to find out exactly what those two things are and why it matters so much. Okay, so to even begin to understand what that number means, we need a map. We need a way to decode human values. And the tool we're going to use is a really powerful model called spiral dynamics. Now, spiral dynamics, it isn't about personality types like Myers-Briggs or anything like that. It's a map of our deep value systems, what the model calls vMEMEs. You can almost think of them as different operating systems for the human mind, each with its own color code and its own set of priorities. So let's meet the key players in our story. So first up, we have red. Think of this as the operating system for raw power, for dominance, for getting what you want right now. In the world of business, this is that pure, unapologetic entrepreneurial force. You know, the founder who builds an entire empire through sheer force of will. And then comes orange. Now, if you've ever worked in a modern corporation, you know this one intimately. It's all about strategic achievement, competition, and rational success. This is the mindset that just thrives on hitting targets, on metrics, and of course, on climbing that corporate ladder.
And after orange, we have green. And this is where the focus shifts pretty dramatically from me to we. The green vMEME is all about community, collaboration, and social harmony. It's the mindset that really values consensus and making sure everyone feels heard, often over just pure individual achievement. So we have our key mindsets, red, orange, and green. Now let's put them to the test. How does each one of these worldviews think about that big, ambitious goal of landing a top job at a major global company? And right away, a really clear pattern emerges. The research shows a positive correlation for both red and orange thinkers. For red, that top job is a clear path to power. For orange, it's the ultimate trophy, the pinnacle of success. But then, look at green. The correlation flips. It turns negative. That focus on community and harmony makes green thinkers pretty skeptical of huge impersonal corporate hierarchies. Now, this all kind of makes sense, right? But believe me, this is not the whole story.
Because now things get really interesting. This pattern leads us directly to the heart of our paradox, and that means we have to introduce the next level, the yellow vMEME. Just look at the scale here. You see orange's ambition as a pretty strong positive bar. You see green's skepticism as a small negative one. But then look at yellow. That negative 0.1104, that's our mystery number. It's not just a negative correlation, it's the strongest signal on the entire chart. It seems our most complex thinkers aren't just kind of uninterested in these top corporate jobs, they seem to be actively running in the other direction. The source material really nails it here. For someone operating from a yellow value system, the whole idea of a top job at a huge company being the ultimate prize, well, it's just based on a totally outdated way of measuring success and impact. So what exactly is this yellow mindset? So the yellow vMEME represents a huge leap in complexity. It's the first mindset that doesn't look back at the previous stages and call them wrong. Instead, it sees red, orange, and green as essential, necessary parts of a much larger evolving system. Its main motivation is to just understand how all the different pieces fit together and to navigate that complexity with a ton of flexibility and intelligence. So why the strong no thank you to the top jobs? Well, it really just boils down to a simple calculation of pain versus gain. For a yellow thinker, the pain is being shoved into a rigid box where your impact is measured by a title on an org chart. It's the soul-crushing constraint of bureaucracy. The gain thereafter is the complete freedom to solve complex problems across different departments, across boundaries, where their impact is measured by their actual influence on the system, not by their position in the hierarchy. But hold on, here's the twist. It's really easy to look at this yellow perspective and just label it as more evolved. But is it always? Or could it sometimes be a very sophisticated, very intelligent form of just avoiding the real world?
This is the really critical question we have to ask ourselves. Is turning your back on the world's most powerful institutions a sign of some kind of enlightenment? Or is it actually a failure to bring that advanced thinking into the very places that need it the most?
And the research points out some serious risks here. There's intellectual arrogance, just dismissing these massive companies as simplistic or beneath them. There's the privilege of it all, having the luxury to chase interesting problems while other people just need a steady job. And maybe most importantly, there's the risk of what's called integration failure, that trap of having these brilliant, big-picture insights, but being completely unable to translate them into action inside the messy reality of how organizations actually work. And all of this leads to a really powerful conclusion. True mastery isn't just about seeing the system from 30,000 feet. It's the ability to parachute into any part of it, the red, the orange, the green environments, and operate effectively, all while holding that bigger picture yellow awareness. You see, avoiding the game isn't the same thing as mastering it. So, where does that leave us? Well, it pretty much forces us to rethink what ambition and success and impact really even mean in the first place. So, what would a more mature ambition look like? Well, step one is recognizing that huge corporations aren't just rigid pyramids. They are themselves incredibly complex, living, adaptive systems. Step two is understanding that the greatest, most difficult challenge might not be building something brand new from scratch, but actually transforming these incredibly powerful existing systems from the inside. And finally, step three is just accepting that if you truly want to change the world, you have to engage with the institutions that are already shaping it. And that brings us to our final question, one for you to think about. What is a career really for? Is the goal a title, a specific spot on an org chart, or is it about finding the place where you can have the greatest possible impact on the complex systems that shape all of our lives? Thanks for joining us.